Just in tonight, new video of alleged torture victims in Zimbabwe. These people say they were attacked, their bodies burned, their limbs broken because they didn't support President Robert Mugabe. As you know, as much as we like on this show to make fun of our own politicians, here on the Election Center, I think at the end of the day, ultimately, we are about celebrating our democracy. Tonight, the images we're going to show you more of are proof of a system that is essentially the opposite of democracy. Unlike the free and fair elections that we take for granted in this country, Zimbabweans were asked to vote or face deadly consequences. Mugabe was the only candidate in this runoff election. His opponent dropped out last week, he says, because his supporters were targeted for violence. And today, you risked punishment, even death, if you didn't have this red ink-stained finger as proof that you had voted. Joining me right now to talk a little bit more about this is John Prendergast. He is co-chair of the Enough Project. It's an initiative to end genocide and crimes against humanity. John, thanks for being here with us tonight. And many people may not realize that at one time, Robert Mugabe was actually considered a reformer when he first came to power. And then he turned into this sort of power-hungry, monstrous leader. I mean, describe for us what conditions have been like under his recent rule.
Yeah, if this was a novel, people wouldn't believe it. The character arc for President Mugabe has been extraordinary. He started out as someone who was viewed as a reformer and as someone who wanted to heal the deep divisions in race relations that were in existence at the time in southern Africa. He has melted down into one of the most grotesque dictators that Africa has ever seen. 2,000 people have been tortured in the last few weeks. 500 people have been killed directly by political violence, and about 200,000 people have been displaced. That is a heck of a legacy to leave behind, and he's in the process of building that legacy now.
So, John, is there anybody who can stand up to him? Does the opposition there even have a chance?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the opposition tried to stand up to him. And imagine if in this country a president decided suddenly that was sitting in power to go after the supporters of the opposition party, house to house, with lists of people who had voted for the opposition party, pulling these people out of their houses, beating them. 80-year-old women have been beaten in front of the entire community. People have had their lips cut off, ears cut off. It is a humiliation and a destruction of the idea that one can dissent from the ruling party's ways, from support for Robert Mugabe. And so they're really, I mean, they've tried to stand up to him, and this is the fate. So now the opposition and the civil society and the people of Zimbabwe are saying, what is the world going to do about this? Because we've tried everything we can.
Well, let me ask you about that, John. I mean, President Bush called this election a sham. Nelson Mandela has spoken out against Mugabe. Even Queen Elizabeth stripped him of his honorary knighthood that he was given about a decade ago. But he's been in power for 28 years now. Do any of these world leaders really have any leverage over him at all? Are we just going to watch this violence continue?
Yeah, the leverage is very weak. So, in other words, instead of going after him directly, because I think at this point his ego is so enormous and he's so distanced himself from reality that going directly to him wouldn't make any sense. But if we went after some of his closest officials, the military leaders and the security officials and the police officials who are implementing the campaign of violence, and banned their travel, froze all their assets, sent the International Criminal Court to begin to construct cases against them, and started to give them a reason to say, wait a minute, do we want to hook ourselves to this sinking ship, or do we want to get rid of this guy so we can have a chance in the future? We've got to start creating those kinds of divisions inside Zimbabwe, and we really sat on the sidelines and done nothing except make speeches. And that, certainly, as you mentioned, all these people have condemned what's going on, but we've got to start getting involved.
John, it's an important story. Thanks for coming on and talking to us about it tonight. Really appreciate it. John Prendergast.